If you're 45 and you haven't really started saving for retirement yet, first, take a breath. You are not alone, and you are not out of options. In fact, before this video is over, I'm going to show you a number that will completely change how you think about where you stand right now. Most people in your situation do one of two things. They either panic and make rush decisions, or they shut down entirely because the whole thing feels too far gone to fix. And honestly, both of those reactions make sense because everywhere you look, the financial world is telling you that the game started at 22 and you already lost. But here's what actually matters. That story is incomplete, and the math tells a very different picture.
Let me start with something that puts the real urgency in focus, and it has nothing to do with the stock market. Think about what $50,000 bought you in 2019. Today, that same money buys significantly less. Inflation is quietly eating your cash every single day it sits still. At 45, you cannot afford to play defense anymore. Doing nothing is not a neutral decision. It is an expensive one. So let's talk about what doing something actually looks like. The first move is to get clear on your number. Most people feel anxious about retirement because they're chasing a vague idea of enough. Here is a simple way to get concrete. Take your expected annual expenses in retirement and multiply by 25. That is your freedom number, the target you are actually building toward. Once you have a number, you have a plan. And a plan beats panic every time.
Now let's look at the math, because this is where it gets interesting. If you start investing $500 a month at 45 with an average annual return of 7%, by the time you reach 65, you will have contributed $120,000 of your own money. Your actual balance? Closer to $260,000. More than double what you put in, just from growth alone. Push that to $1,000 a month, and you are looking at a balance approaching $520,000 at 65, starting from zero at 45. And here is something most people don't realize about that growth. It does not require you to perfectly time the market or chase hot stocks. In fact, trying to do that is one of the most expensive mistakes a late starter can make. When you feel behind, there is a temptation to swing for the fences, to take big risks to make up ground fast. That is a desperation trap, and it can set you back further than where you started. The smarter move is straightforward. Low-cost index funds that track the broad market. Consistent monthly contributions, regardless of what the market is doing that week. This strategy, sometimes called dollar cost averaging, takes the emotion completely out of the equation. You're not betting, you are building. Month after month, automatically, letting compounding do the heavy lifting. One thing worth revisiting if you are currently in a target date fund, because you are closer to retirement, those funds automatically shift heavily into bonds. And bonds can be a serious drag on your growth. Over the last decade, a total stock market index fund returned close to 14% annually. A total bond market fund, under 2%. At 45, with 20 years ahead of you, you likely need more growth than a target date fund is designed to give. Now here is where it gets even better. Because once you turn 50, the IRS hands you a significant advantage: catch-up contributions. For 401k accounts, the standard limit is $23,000 per year, but at 50 and older, you can contribute an additional $7,500 on top of that. For IRAs, the limit jumps from $7,000 to $8,000. These limits exist because lawmakers understood that life gets in the way. The catch-up provision is the system acknowledging that late starters deserve a bigger on-ramp. And then there is Social Security, which most people treat as an afterthought, but shouldn't. If you claim at 62, you take a permanent 30% reduction in your monthly benefit for the rest of your life. But if you wait until 70, your benefit increases by roughly 8% every single year past your full retirement age. That is a guaranteed inflation-adjusted return. Maximum benefits at 70 can exceed $5,000 a month. Think about what that does to your savings requirement. If Social Security is covering your core living expenses, your portfolio just has to cover the gap. That takes enormous pressure off the number you need to hit. Here's the real talk for a second, and this is something a 25-year-old genuinely does not have. At 45, you are likely at or near your peak earning years. You have expertise, credibility, and a network that took decades to build. That is not a consolation prize. That is an engine. Channeling even a portion of that earning power, whether through your primary income, consulting, or a skill you can monetize, directly into your investment accounts changes the math significantly. So what do you actually do this month? 3 moves. First, if your employer offers a 401k match and you are not taking the full match, fix that immediately. That is free money leaving your account every single pay period. Second, open or maximize a Roth IRA. Your 45 to 65 window is one of the best times to use a Roth. You have enough years for tax-free growth to compound meaningfully, and paying taxes now rather than later often wins at this stage of life. Third, find one expense to redirect, not painfully, just $200 to $300 a month towards your future. At 7% over 20 years, that one shift adds roughly $78,000 to your balance. One decision, 2 decades of payoff.
The good news is the math is still on your side, a clear freedom number to aim for, index funds doing the compounding work, catch-up limits accelerating your timeline, Social Security working as a foundation, not a fallback, and peak earning years to pour fuel on the fire. You are not the person who didn't start. You are the person who is starting smart right now. It is not too late to build something meaningful. And that is exactly what we are here to work through together. If this video helped shift how you see your situation, hit subscribe. Every week, we break down exactly this kind of thing. Real numbers, plain English, no panic. Just a clear path forward. I will see you in the next one.